when we look at the way that Donald Trump has decided to somehow get along or make a deal with Yemen, and right now they're talking about Hamas, and his visit to the Middle East, he's not going to visit Israel. And Pete Hegseth, he planned to go to Israel, but he canceled that plan. He said that later on I may go to Israel. It seems that whatever is happening that we're not aware of is something under the surface that is happening, that somehow some sort of tensions between the two administrations. But is this tension coming from the Netanyahu's decision because Donald Trump is not happy? We know that he's willing to put an end to any conflict as soon as possible in his mind, but it's not in the mind of Netanyahu. That's not possible. That's why they're not getting along.
Hey, if you can put a musical track to your show, we get the appropriate music here. We get the Hollies. Something's happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. That would be a great song to put under this. I think maybe part of the impetus was the shellacking that the United States took in Yemen. So Trump and his team, were sitting around, yeah, man, we're going to show those Yemenis who's a tough guy. We're not a bunch of wimps like Biden and his crew. By God, they just haven't been hit hard enough. And so, we're great. We get back in the business of killing civilians. And we blow up a bunch of civilian sites. And yet the Houthis, instead of shooting down one Predator drone a month, now start shooting down one a week. And then on top of it, by the end of the fiasco, the U.S. has lost at least 3 FA-18 Hornets at $70-80 million a pop. So there's $250,000 between those 3 aircraft alone. And then when you add in the 15 drones lost during the Biden administration, plus 7 more drones lost during the Trump administration, that's 22. You come up with basically about $1 billion worth of lost equipment. And so I think it was that frustration, realizing, okay, this ain't working. And we got an escape route. This Sultan of Oman seems to be the key player, and he's a key player in getting the United States and Iran to talk and mediating that. I'm sure he's got the full support of Russia and China, and he's able to convince the United States that, look, you're going to come visit the Saudis. The Saudis, frankly, you're going to get a pretty frosty reception unless you can stop killing these Houthis. Which is, the irony there is, go back 2 years, 3 years, the Houthis and the Saudis were at each other's throat. And so the Saudis have done a complete volte-face, reversal, turnabout in this regard, plus solidifying, cementing a new era of relationship with Iran. So I think, you take all of that together. There was a recognition at the Trump White House that if they want to have any kind of success, they're gonna have to change what they're doing, and part of that change is, now I'm not sure we call it lessening support for Israel, but at least not appearing in public to be, kissing Israel's rear end at every opportunity.
Yeah, one of the things that I do believe that the Trump administration is considering right now is how the reality of the Middle East has changed with the new sort of relationship between Iran and Saudi Arabia. In that clip that Netanyahu was talking, and you see the way that he's picturing the Middle East, saying that the Arab states are getting closer to us and Iran is the enemy. It seems that it's totally the opposite way.
Yeah, absolutely the opposite. Well, look, this is this is still, I would argue, a consequence of the special military operation in Ukraine, the attempt to isolate and destroy Russia, at the same time that the West was increasing its harsh rhetoric directed at China as an enemy, as a military power that must be conquered. When you brought Russia and China together into that partnership, and then they accelerated the development of BRICS as an alternative financial power in the world economy, where nations no longer were going to be held hostage by the U.S. dollar. That started a change, and it's been like a chain reaction, because Iran has been brought into BRICS. So, just from an economic standpoint, Iran's actually in a better position now than it was 10 years ago when they were pressured into the JCPOA, that Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And other nations in the global south are, this is like an international version of the movie Broadcast, where people are throwing their windows open and yelling, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." And that's what there's a growing unity. A lot of U.S. policy over the last 70 years has been, let's call it a divide and conquer, promote conflict. If you think about it, the reason Nixon went to China was not because we loved the Chinese. They were just a tool to be used to go after Russia. When Iran and Iraq, when Iran, the Ayatollah, took over in 1979, then the United States set about provoking the war, encouraging the attack of Iraq on Iran. And at the same time, it was even stranger, is the United States was also providing some military aid to Iran. All we wanted was to see that the Iraqis and Iranians kill each other. God bless, man. The more of those Middle Eastern, trash that we can kill, the better. I mean, you see how cynical, how evil this is. And then, with respect to the Houthis and the Saudis, we wanted to provoke that war in order to go after Iran. So much, and then we're back to Ukraine and Russia, provoked by the United States. I mean, I love the concept of what my country was supposed to be, really dedicated to freedom and to liberty, and yet born out of depriving Native Americans of their land, and born in part with a legacy of slavery. Despite those evils, there was still at heart a concept of America being something better and different. But now when we look at what it's become in the post-World War II era, and we're like a goddamn arsonist. We're running around setting fires and then, going in offering to sell fire insurance. So it's not just an isolated instance. So when we look at what's taking place now, I think there's a realization, maybe even a fear in Washington, that it's lost control of the narrative. That with Iran and the Saudis now pledging support to each other in some very, unprecedented ways, and with China and Russia flexing their muscle as well, and particularly this new relationship, comprehensive security agreement that Russia signed with Iran. I think Trump and company are playing catch up. In fact, I don't even think they fully appreciate how profound these changes are. We are in the early stages of the birth of a new world order. Whether it will usher in peace and prosperity for those who have been exploited for so many years, a whole nother question. But the ability of the United States to dictate and control, I think, is it's coming undone.
Larry, we had the fourth round of talks between Iran and the United States. Both said that it was difficult but useful. And it's the situation. The foreign minister of Iran said that the talks are getting more serious.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your evaluation of, what's your take on what has happened in this round of talks between the two parties?
Well, the good news is they talked again. Okay, so that's there's a silver lining, and they're going to talk again. So there will be a fifth round. But now we come down to the heart of the issue, and from Iran, what Iran, I think, is willing to negotiate on is we will surrender all nuclear enrichment programs above 3.6%. That enriched uranium at those levels will be held by Russia, and our research in medical isotopes will get from Russia. But Iran is not going to eliminate a peaceful nuclear program, nor should it have to. The United States is insisting that, you got to stop it all. And while you're at it, get rid of those missiles and cut off contact with Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. If that remains the U.S. position, there will be no agreement. And then the United States is going to, once again be faced with, or Trump in particular, he's made these threats. And if they dare to attack Iran, it will be the end of the Trump administration, because he will then be embroiled in a war that he cannot win. And these pundits that populate the airwaves over here who think that we can just waltz in and crush Iran and, by God, it'll be over in a week or two, and haven't learned a damn thing from history. All these quick victories. I mean, going back to the Civil War, you had crowds of Washingtonians in carriages riding out to the Manassas battlefield. This is going to be great, man. We're going to crush the Confederacy. Didn't turn out that way. They lost that battle. Similarly, World War I was supposed to be over, in a snap of an eye, blink of an eye, I mean. Yeah, it's so, Vietnam, Iraq, mission accomplished. So this is one more disaster waiting to happen if they go down that route. So I don't think Iran is not in such a desperate strait that the United States can compel them to lose their entire nuclear program. The added advantage now is Iran's got China and Russia firmly in its camp. In the 2015 JCPOA negotiations, they did not. Both Russia and China each were sort of holding them at arm's length. Not now, because I think they all recognize that the game the United States has been playing is both malicious and destructive.
Larry, there is a very substantial and important division within the Republican Party as we talk. Some of them are supporting Israel and the way that Netanyahu wants the policy of the United States to be in the Middle East, and like Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz on Fox News, he said that
Graham,
Lindsey Graham, and these people want to destroy Iranian nuclear program. And we know that if the talks go in that direction, Iran said this is a red line. We're not going to do that.
Right.
We're going to limit it. We're going to limit enrichment of uranium, but we're not going to destroy it. And on the other hand, we have the people like you, Colonel Macgregor, and even Scott Ritter, who voted for Donald Trump, but Tucker Carlson, but you don't want to to go and make a war, make a new war in the Middle East. Here is what Colonel Macgregor said in terms of a direct war with Iran, Larry.